Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is our first episode of Pep Talks in the morning. It could be, you may be seeing it in the evening because we're going to be doing a live rebroadcast, which means we're going to use the technology and take the recorded show and rebroadcast it live 8 o'clock every evening. That is the intention. We're also going to be testing our podcast abilities to send this after this live show, to send this out as a podcast for those who may not be able to take in the actual audiovisual show but want the content. It's the same thing, minus the pretty faces. And so as in everything with a test, we expect whatever it is gonna need kicking and fixing and tweaking and twisting, it'll happen now. So it's 6:01 in the morning on Monday, February 10th, 14 days before Carnival, Sunday. And yesterday, I went Panorama. If I miss everything else for Carnival, I don't miss Pan. And there were a lot of things that were very upsetting yesterday about Panorama. Besides the fact that the layout of the place was a scaled down junior version of what we're accustomed to as a North Stand. And if you did that to save us money, publish those numbers. If you did that to save the country money, erecting the North Stand, publish the numbers. But if that tent city costs the same thing or more, then you know we have a problem. You know that we have a situation, you would know. I don't want to speculate yet, but we have a situation where those in public office in our country seems to attract kleptomaniacs. People who think the treasury dollars is their dollars. When somebody tell me, the Prime Minister not in charge of Japan, no. But the Prime Minister is in charge of everything. And what happens as PAN, and what happens as just about everything in this country where public funds are spent, invariably begins and ends with the Prime Minister. If I were Prime Minister and you spent public funds and you spent it in a good way and it redounded to the benefit of the citizenry and people reported to me, job well done, you'll be hearing from me. And if I were Prime Minister and you spent public funds in a bad way, in a corrupt way, or a way that does not add up, if it's incompetent or corrupt, if you misused or otherwise wasted public funds, again, you'd be hearing from me. You see, when Keith Rowley was sworn in 2015, he said the buck stops with him. And that wasn't him trying to be using pretty words. That is the actual fact. Our system of government elects 41 people to the parliament. But you don't get a government until out of those 41, someone is plucked and made prime minister. That person who is plucked from the 41 and made, this is how it's supposed to work. It's not how we do it. We do it backwards. We appoint somebody as the leader of a party and send the party forward, so we know if that party get more seats in the House, it's automatic. He commands the majority of the people who've won. We get that. But that's how it's supposed to work. And of the 41 in the House, someone is supposed to be plucked and made Prime Minister. You do the plucking based on who has the most support of all the members in those, out of those 41, from the 41. To make a government, you need an Attorney General. The law says that. Again, Moses didn't go up the hill and get this from the burning bush. Men, perhaps some women too, wrote this and called it our law. We could write anything and call it our law. Right now it says you need an Attorney General. You could change it to say you need a pole dancer. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's written in the law. Follow the law. But the Attorney General is to be the custodian of the law, and the Prime Minister's job is to do everything else. Everything else. Anything that is public service in this country, it's the Prime Minister's job. The lack of water in your taps are 2 degrees away from the Prime Minister's decision making. Now, I need you to understand. There are countries in this world, smaller than this country, have much less people than this country. Barbados, for example, that do a better job of running their country. Singapore. Singapore is half the size of Trinidad and Tobago. Singapore has a population of over 5 million people. But Singapore just eclipsed the United States of America as being the most competitive economy in the world. Singapore got independence the same time as Trinidad and Tobago. Lee Kuan Yew, the man responsible for Singapore, was a contemporary of Eric Williams. And he was envious. In the start, our race between us and Singapore, in the beginning, we had a head start that few people could ever have. Kind of money that Trinidad had. It was so obscene that you would have expected that Trinidad would have become one of the richest countries in the world and stayed there. That its people would become arrogant. That the people would become boastful because we're rich and we have a lot of money. But what happened to the money? What happened to the money? We are so good at making excuses. And it is the excuse makers I come into this morning, you know. Because it's the excuse makers that allows all the nonsense to go on. The Bible says the upholder is worse than the thief. There's a reason. There's a reason. You see, the buck stops with the Prime Minister. The buck stops there. He is responsible for everything. How could Singapore, that has no oil, have a GDP of 322 billion US? How could Singapore, that has no gas, have a GDP of 322 billion US, and we, Trinidad and Tobago, mighty Trinidad and Tobago, have a GDP of 22 billion? How? How could the Singapore that has no pitch lake have a GDP of 322 billion, but Trinidad and Tobago have a GDP of 22 billion? How could a Singapore that has no Tobago, the best tourist destination in the universe, how could they have a GDP of 322 billion, and we, Trinidad and Tobago, that owns the largest brain core on the planet, the nylon pool, we own the Pigeon Point jetty that has become synonymous, iconic with tourist destinations. How come we who own that, our GDP is $22 billion? And who you think's job it is? Who you think? The magic fairies that sews the buttons on the boots at night? Or the Prime Minister? Whose job do you think it is to determine the size of our economy and what we earn? Who? Well, boy, Phil, the price of oil low. Why is it only oil? Singapore don't have oil. Why is it only oil? In the 80s, when this economy collapsed, when we lost Ross Drugs and Kirpalanis and Woolworths and Stevens and Johnsons, yes, there was a version of Trinidad and Tobago a lot richer than it is today, some would say. When we lost all those companies, the original McEnany Allstons collapsed. That Sabga was able to buy and call Sabga McEnany Allstons. But the original company was there. It was here. For some of you who are younger than who were born after the 80s, there was actually a McEnany Allstons and a Neil and Massey, and a Kirpalanis, and an Amar Group. Those were the big companies in Trinidad and Tobago. That recession had wiped all of them out. That you end up with a Massey and a Macal, Ansa Macal. Superfarm is now the version of Ross Drugs, but there were more Ross Drugs than anything, and there was a Ross Drugs in every community. And that we lost everything. Kirpalanis. Some of you may not know that Kirpalanis was the biggest department store in this country. Woolworth was second. Stevens and Johnson's was third. And Stevens and Johnson's was an amalgamation of two big stores, Stevens and J.T. Johnson. But the recession that wiped all of that out taught the world a lesson, because that recession wasn't just us. That recession was global. And it taught all the world a lesson. That oil as a industry comes with massive booms and massive busts. And that if you don't prepare for the down cycle, you will wipe your country out. In Trinidad and Tobago, we still can't account for the boom money. We don't know where it went. We don't know who stole it. We know Johnny O'Halloran, one name keeps calling because he seems to have been the biggest of the PNM bandits, became so fantabulously wealthy that when he died, he left skyscrapers in Toronto. He didn't make that money decently and lawfully. Those weren't returns on investments. He didn't invent the cure for cancer. He was very creative in PNM corruption and stole public funds. And he is not the only one. You live in a country that should have about $2 trillion stashed away somewhere. But we have none. We're in debt. We're broken. This is a Monday, 2 weeks before Carnival. And the people of this country have to do a searching and frank assessment of how we come to be here. I don't think any human being is stupid. I don't think anybody could really be classified as stupid. Once you have enough sense to come in out of the rain and keep yourself fed when food is available, you have to be able to understand how basic things work. And that who is in charge? You are not in charge. They are in charge. You can't do anything. I can't do anything. I bring a lot of information to you. I show you how a lot of things can be done. I could respond to the fallout of those in charge. But I can't make a decision for Trinidad and Tobago right now. I can't tell you what to do with our economy. I can't tell you what to do right now. I can't make those decisions. I can't tell you where to spend the money. If I were Prime Minister, we would not have spent $500 million restoring the Red House. We would not have. Not now. When time's hard for you, you have $21 in your pocket. Your children home hungry. You leave this morning to go and look for something. You ain't get no work. You ain't get no job. You bounce up a partner and he gave you $21. So now you have $21 in your wallet, in your pocket. And you're feeling for a half pack of cigarettes and you want to take a drink, but you know your children home, hungry bellies. And I find a way to spend that $21 to feed them. Because that's your responsibility. Them first. Because you're his father. That's father responsibility and mother responsibility. That's prime minister responsibility. You don't get drunk on the side of the road and kill kiddie in the canal. Your job is to take care of the people you're responsible for. So you don't take up $500 million and spend on the version of a half pack of the Moray on Abercrombie Street and a nip and a flask. Now is not the time for that. You tell yourself, it's not all the time I will only have $21. There'll come a time when I'll have a job. Because I'm good and I'm talented. When I'm making money. And I have money for food and money for rent and money to put gas in the car and I have money to pay T&Tech and I have money to pay Flow and even be mobile. Then, after all them bill pay, I'll probably a little something for the children and then you never know. I could go and buy my half pack and my flask. But that's not what the Prime Minister did. And this is the problem I have with it. Because you could be as proud as you want of your half pack. You could feel as nationalistic as you want about your flask of rum. But the fact of the matter is, the choice that was made to spend $106 million to renovate President's house and the cottage on President's house grounds was criminal misconduct. You have the responsibility to marshal the scarce resources of a country suffering, tottering, ruin, staring us in the face. You have a responsibility to manage that. You can't squander it. You cannot waste it. A day may come when we boom in again. Who knows? Magic works in this country. This is a country that had a cocoa boom. So fantabulous. That when you drive around the savannah, all them big house, that is bling from cocoa days. Bling. Everybody want to undo each other, outdo each other. Who richer? That is what Stallmeyer Castle and Whitehall. That's what built that. Trinidad had a cocoa boom that shame other countries. Tobago ended up being the most expensive real estate in the world because of cocoa. We had a sugar boom. Then we had oil and gas. We had oil boom. And then oil and gas boom. So I don't know. This country seems to be blessed beyond measure. Another boom could come. And then, or you could end up with a government that stewards the national economy the way the government of Singapore did. That grows the gross domestic product and limits the expenditure, limits the exposure, limits the corruption and the white-collar criminality the way they did. Because half our budget, people believe, goes towards corruption. Half. We'll talk about that later. But what we're talking about now is this. This wasn't half-pack and flask time. This wasn't you're children hungry, but you're in Francis fashion putting on fancy clothes because it's carnival. This is a time when you were supposed to make prudent decisions. You don't borrow money to pay debt because you're now paying interest on interest. You borrow money to invest for income whose proceeds could service both debts. That's what credit is for. Credit is not for vanity projects and stunting. When you tell Trinbagonians, feel proud of the Red House. You're not telling them what to do when they can't get a job and you're responsible for the economy. You're not telling them what to do when the money that they earn from the job that they have can't afford to buy food and you're responsible for stewarding the value of the money. We'll talk about that later too. You see, you're the prime minister. You're his daddy. You're supposed to make sensible decisions. Because if you make stupid decisions, everybody hungry. To spend $106 million to renovate President's house for national pride that will never earn us a single cent. Worse, buildings like that, no matter how well you restore it, it is a continuous drain and a continuous cost. That's why I call it a vanity project. Because yes, we want to maintain our heritage, no problem at all. But you have to know that comes at a cost. Because that collapse has started again. The ruin, from the minute you stop restoring, it starts collapsing. There's a paint you could go in the hardware to buy. It's called red oxide primer. When you go to buy red oxide primer, know this. That was invented for the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. That red oxide primer was made for that. The rest of the world buys the excess. From the day they finished building San Francisco Bridge, they started painting rust-proofing from one end to the next. And as they reach the other end, they start back over, or it will collapse into the sea. President's House, the Red House, Whitehall, Mayflower, all those buildings, same thing. Same exact thing. Constant maintenance. Constant is what it's required, and it comes at a cost. And every time you hear them tell you, this ain't no little parlor, this Red House, this Whitehall, this President's House, you can't just send in any... Exactly. Exactly. The continuous cost to upkeep those edifices are ridiculous. There's no way to monetize President's House. None. At best, the president fling some sweeties for all on the ground. Somehow, I go let come and take a peek through the window when I let tree. That's the best they could do. And that's not going to earn money. That's going to cost money to manage the lottery. But to fool people. President's house will never return that investment. Forget the fact that we don't need a president at all. Stick a pin. We spoke at the start that we only have a president because men, and maybe some women, wrote that into our law. We could say we need a scarecrow as our head of government. What we write could be as insane or as sensible as we choose. We don't need a president. Serves no purpose. None whatsoever. Especially for the cost. There's a saying. The juice and worth the squeeze. $106 million we just spent on President's house. $89 million for President's house. $17 million for the cottage. That money that is going to continue to drain. We've now opened a drain to the treasury. Because if you don't maintain the restoration you just restored, it's going to collapse again. That's normal laws of nature. But what is so reprehensible about that decision is that the president doesn't want to live there. Nothing is taking place there. President's house is now $106 million ornament. For you to drive past around the savannah and say, oh good, I'm feeling proud. It's a $106 million ornament. It serves no purpose. It's of no benefit to nobody. None. That $106 million could have buy beds for the hospital. 1,000 beds. That is more important. That $106 million could have been divided among 106 winners of a competition for small businesses. Do it live on national TV, like Shark Tank. Show us what your idea is. We, the state, will back you. Let's turn net employees into net employers. Let's get other jobs and other industries running, besides oil and gas that failing, baton twirling for amalgamated and packing KFC boxes. Let's see what else exists out there. The top 5 industries on planet Earth, the biggest 5 companies in the world, started in garages. Amazon started on a desk smaller than this one behind a computer. Jeff Bezos. And in 20 years, it's the biggest company in the world. Together with Microsoft and Apple and PayPal. These are companies that started on a shoestring. So if the state wanted that $106 million, you could have bet on 106 Chinese. And if 105 fail and 1 succeed, it would have been money better spent than a $106 million ornament around the savannah. And you need to think it through. Because that is the role and the responsibility of the Prime Minister. It was his job to make better choices and better decisions, to not waste and squander the scarce resources that we have. And that's my problem with the Red House. By 2011, the Red House became unserviceable. By 2011. They put a roof over it that Trini say we were renting. I wouldn't doubt it. We could have bought it. But if we were renting it, that's Trinidad. Everybody looking for a racket, you know. Everybody looking to get that hole in the treasury that they can plug a hose in and they could sit at home on top of the hill in Goodwood Park and say we are the most powerful because we have treasury money. But we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we've been dancing this dance in this cesspool for 57 years. We've been making excuses for 57 years to why they have a hole in the treasury and why that hose have to be running to a house in Goodwood Park. We've been doing that for so long. While our children bellies growling. We've buried our parents, our grandparents. We've grown our children up in squalor and sufferation. Some of us have nothing to show and blaming ourselves, ashamed of ourselves. And I tell you, you know, the average Trinbagonian go in Cocorit, all them worthless little boys, pick all of them up and drop them in a country that works. And watch what happens. Watch what happens. Take all them little worthless fellas and put them in a nation where there is hope and opportunity, and watch what happens. It's only in Trinidad and Tobago we eating our young. We turn our backs on them. If you're not in prestige school, you also ran. If your mommy not in Massey and your daddy not in Macau, you also ran. 7,000 children fail out of our education system every year. And then we wonder how we end up with criminals, and how we end up with people breaking in your house, and how you end up with people holding you up with guns. Like you, everybody has needs. Like you, every human being wakes up in the morning, want to stretch, want to go and wash their face, brush their teeth, make a cup of tea, a little breakfast, and start their day. If you woke up on the side of the road this morning, you think your needs went away? You think your desires for a normal life went away? At that point, when you're that low, you think you care about anybody and their opinions and their feelings? We as a nation have forgotten our collective responsibility to each other. And we've allowed people to suffer. We've allowed people to end up with lives of desperation, instead of having governments who understood that the well-being of every citizen is the responsibility of the Prime Minister, his cabinet, that parliament, and the entire public service. Anybody you tell me in the public service not doing their job, fire them. Fire them with malice. Replace them with intent. Set goals, targets, objectives, and measure them. The Prime Minister's job is man management. The Prime Minister's job is not stunting and whining on girls. The Prime Minister's job is to meet with his cabinet every day. You're in charge of health, you're in charge of education, you're in charge of food production, you're in charge of traffic, you're in charge of roads, you're in charge of water. Come on, give me them updates. Where are we? I'm hearing people in this community have traffic, and these people have water, and these people suffering from crime. What are the solutions? What is happening? You're not doing the job? Get up, get out. Get somebody else. That's the Prime Minister's job. That's his whole job. Not to pick up Stuart Young and go traveling around the world to make friends, dancing conga lines. His job to have a minister of energy. If energy is important, but in a diversified economy, energy would be at least 1/5 of our economy, and not 1/100th. Or not the entirety of our economy. It should be a contributor to the economy. When you're driving down the road and one tire go flat, you could still pull aside, you gotta flip over and crash and die. But if you're driving on one tire alone, think about the consequences. And that's what we do. That's how we live in Trinidad and Tobago, without regard for anything else. Our role as citizens is not to make excuses. I'll vote you into office if I like you. If I like what I'm hearing, I'll vote you into office. But make no mistake, I take responsibility for my vote. I take responsibility for my support. And I will hold you to your promises, like I hold myself to the choice that I make to put you there. And if you're failing, I'll do everything in my power to remove you. And I wish this country had a recall law so that the people could understand their power. Because a recall law allows you to remove from office members of parliament that fail to do their job. Now imagine if you could wake up this morning. If you were the people of Belmont, you woke up this morning watching rats race through your community. If you woke up in Cocorit today, if you woke up in Marabella, if you woke up on the train line, if you woke up in Mbakade, if you woke up in La Hoqueta Talparo, and you looked around at all that degradation and all that suffering, I mean, I wish all the people who live in Bayside Towers, those apartments that cost $10 million and up, I wish all of you had creature compassion and that collectively you all walk over that walkover that separates you all from Cocorite and walk in Waterhole and realize that what you throw away would make these people's day. And ask yourself, what good fortune befell you and your children that you live on that side of the road? What misery and horror is responsible for so many people having so very little? We're going to take a break, or we're going to test our ability to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to take your phone calls. We have two phone numbers. Well, besides my phone number, you all know my phone number, 682-2110. I asked B-Mobile for 682-SEXY, and they told me be serious. So I have 682-2110. And we also have 347-4737. So you could call me if you want to contribute to the conversation, because we're testing all of this today. And if you want to call, you could call it on 682-2110 or 347-4737. We're going to test our ability to take a break. And when we come back, we continue the conversation. We'll open the lines. We'll read some news. Stand by.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us.
Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us, so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go?
We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption.
Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate, and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
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 I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber, and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure, basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems, including cameras, alarms, and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Hey! There we go! What is? Check it out. 9 o'clock in the morning. 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 9 o'clock on the dot. And you can't reach the work. Why? There's a flood on the road. 9 o'clock on the dot. You're in the same spot. Why? Organized crime. It's organized crime. Everywhere you turn. Crime and more crime. White collar crime. Blue collar crime. No collar crime. We're running out of time. No food in the pot. Why? 9 o'clock in the day. You can't see your way. Why? Traffic on the highway. Traffic on the highway. 9 o'clock on the dot. No food in the pot. Bills, bills, bills and more bills. Bills, bills, bills and more bills. $3 trillion spent, nothing to show. That's how it go in a land named Trinbago. Check this. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, 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 nothing. Public health fail, public works fail, local government fail, central government fail. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work. 57 years, tears, tears, tears. 57 years, prayers, prayers, prayers. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work. No bread in the kitchen, no gas in the car, no water in the pipe. Everybody by the bar, hole in the pavement, hole in your shoe, hole in your wallet. There's only holes for you. Nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work. She hold it like that. She hold it like that. Your country in a hole, everything out of control. Gunman and she hold it like that. Hey! There we go! Gunman and she hold it like that. Like that. Gunman and she hold it like that. Your country in a hole, everything out of control. What is? Gunman and she hold it like that. Check it out! 9 o'clock in the morning. 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 9 o'clock on the dot, and you can't reach the work. Why? There's a flood on the main road. 9 o'clock on the dot, you're in the same spot. Why? Organized crime. It's organized crime. Everywhere you turn, crime and more crime. White collar crime, blue collar crime, no collar crime. We running out of time. And we are back, and hopefully we did that seamlessly. This is all new technology. We're using new software for us to be able to stream this live to you, take these breaks, and do this kind of stuff. This is the test show. So if we're making any mistakes, please excuse us. To the people WhatsApping me and telling me I'm looking sexy this morning, I appreciate it. This hairstyle is courtesy hairbrush and bathroom mirror. We, in the Progressive Empowerment Party, have decided as a growing group of mass of people to commit ourselves and our ability to a better Trinidad and Tobago. And we've done that. I mean, yesterday in the pan yesterday, and people just walking up to me and telling me, boss, the people want to give all it, you know. They want you to lead. And everybody have their own little demands. And a lot of it has to do with people want me to be a lot calmer. If you know me at all as a person, generally, I have a calm disposition. But I've asked people, if you're drowning in the sea, the lifeguard comes to you. It's not a good day. I see you having difficulty. Would you like me to escort you to the shore? It's not like that. The fire service don't come. Good day, ma'am. I notice you have a fire raging. Would you like us to apply some water to the fire? It's never like that. When the captain run up to the control room on a ship and say, good God, Jim, we're staring into the iceberg. It's never calm. Our country is collapsing. A lot of you may not realize because it's a kind of collapse that's designed to fool you. You see, the deficit financing, Papi borrowing money every day to pay the rent and pay for the food and to keep all your feeling like things normal. Papi ain't no income, you know. Papi borrowing money and spending it. And the day it dawns on you, when Papi can't get no more money borrow, and you realize they have no food in the house, you can't pay the rent, landlord calling, TNT come and cut the lights and take the meter, you go outside to borrow some money to get you through what you think is a new rough spot, and you find out you have no credit. Papi use it up and fool you. The Progressive Empowerment Party has decided to take it upon ourselves to bring this information to the public continuously. This morning, this show is another vehicle by which we hope to be able to do that. We will be taking calls, we will be sharing information, we're taking WhatsApps. And I got a couple of WhatsApps while I was on air just now, and I have to learn to not get distracted by them. Somebody sent me something very interesting. On Saturday night, a team led by the political leader of the PNM, Dr. Raoul, he met with the PNM leadership in Tobago and the 4 candidates who contested the position of political leader of the Tobago Island Council at the official residence in Tobago. And the question this person is asking, why is a prime minister of the whole of Trinidad and Tobago conducting PNM party business at the official prime minister's residence? That is a good question to ask. Somebody else sent this. So, Subhas Ram Kelawan remained all along on the stock exchange while investing on the board of the stock exchange, while investigations charges were laid, hearings held, and fines determined? Nope. No wonder he received such a mild hand slap for what amounts to be insider trading. He claims he did no wrong. That is because he probably never allowed the ethical policies to be written which would have closed that door. Anybody in financial services since Enron know about such unethical behavior. And CNC3 continues to feature this unethical organization on their morning show, Boss Securities. Boss Securities should have lost their license, and Ram Kelawan should be in a lot more trouble than he is today. But this is the Royal Imperial Majestic Banana Republic of do what the hell you like land. And you could pretty much get away with nonsense. There was an editorial. And I have a guest in studio with me. And before we get to that guest, I want to read this editorial for you, if you will humor me. And it is dealing with this issue. It was in the Sunday Express. And it's called When Leaders Fail Us. The settlements announced by the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, against Hassan Philip Rahman, Imtiaz Rahman, Subhas Ramkilawan, and Boss Securities Limited in the matter involving the 2013 trade of 659,588 First Citizen shares underscores not only the scandal of the transaction, but the tragic reinforcement of the society's cynicism that there is no honor to be found among its elite. That is a scathing indictment and well deserved. The Director of Public Prosecutions will in time reveal whether he believes crimes were committed in the acquisition and sale of First Citizen shares in 2013. However, while the law deals in the black and white of evidence, most of life occurs in the gray areas where actions are circumscribed by notions of what is right and wrong, and what is ethical, fair, moral, and just. While law is informed by the values of a society, values are not prosecuted by law, but by public opinion, which explains why those accused of ethical breaches almost invariably declare that they broke the law. Contrary to the assertion by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the settlements fall far short of serving the public interest. By agreeing to the relatively paltry payment of $1.3 million from Subhas Ramkilawan and Boss Securities Limited and $750,000 each from cousins Hassan Philip Rahman and Imtiaz Rahman, the SEC has denied the public the vital transparency required in this case. The public needed, for example, to understand exactly what Mr. Ramkilawan, Managing Director of Boss and notably an independent senator, meant when, in anticipation of the next day's sale and purchase of 634,588 of the shares bought by Philip Rahman from the discounted employee allotment, he told Imtiaz Rahman, the proposed buyer and chairman of Boss, that while the trades would be open market, appropriate trading strategies should allow you to access most, if not all, of the shares sought. Keep in mind that Ramkilawan was at the time chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Because the SEC has closed this matter without any admission of wrongdoing and or guilt and or liability whatsoever, and without admission as to the truth of the claims allegations, the public is now likely never to know how, following rapid-fire negotiations between Imtiaz Rahman and Ramkilawan, which increased Boss's commission, the transaction was flawlessly executed on the stock exchange at 10:53 a.m. on January 14, 2014, with the offer matching exactly in both price and volume. Another thing the public may also never know is why the allotment of shares for First Citizens employees at an attractive 10% discount with zero interest loans was so undersubscribed that Hassan Philip Rahman, Chief Risk Officer of First Citizens, could apply and receive 659,588 shares. While the SEC probe is necessarily limited to the share transaction, the public interest requires a wider scope of investigation that should include the role of then First Citizens Chairman Nairi Alfonso, who publicly staked her confidence in the way the bank ran the process, which was transparent, fair, and unassailable. Now you're talking about people who made, I think, a $30 million profit on this transaction. You're talking about senior public office holders. The bank, whose shares were made available. The chairman of the stock exchange, who was an independent senator, and the managing director of the company that handled the trades. This is so dirty. This is so obscene that the director of public prosecutions has a responsibility here to clear the air on exactly what transpired and what laws were broken. Because if he doesn't, then we don't know how to stop things like this from happening in the future. So I want you to stick a large pin in that, because we are going to be paying extreme attention to this. Going forward, the Progressive Empowerment Party is operating on the ground. I just got another message. Your Pep Talks live tests cannot comment on it as it's being shared by you. Others may not be able to comment while others can. I don't know what you mean by that. You're supposed to be able to write anything you want on my wall. My wall is open to the public. And if you're having difficulty on any of the threads, my number is 682-2110, 682-2110. WhatsApp me. Approximately 6 to 8 FETs have been so far hosted at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, also known as the FET capital of the country. My question, what were the fees charged to these promoters, and where does this money go and to who? Why not make this public? The public funds used to construct, yet we can't know what is taking place with income that belongs to the public. Again, fair questions. And I am so happy that the public is waking up. And they're waking up because they have a voice, the Progressive Empowerment Party, and they have me. And they know that if they raise these issues, we'll talk about it. I am being joined in studio this morning by the Chief Mobilization Officer of the East Hub of the Progressive Empowerment Party. He is responsible for getting the vote out, organizing caretakers, and making sure all of the constituencies of our East Hub are properly managed. And they did a walkabout yesterday. While the rest of us were in Pan, we was working. You see the pictures, no whining. They were in Mayaro, walking about, meeting the constituents. Maurice Downs. Good morning, Maurice.
Morning, Philip.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So this is your first interview with me.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us on this inaugural episode of Pep Talks in the Morning. So, tell us about the East Hub, your role in the East Hub, and anything that you feel comfortable sharing. The constituencies, the caretakers, what you think about what's going on.
Well, the East Hub, one of the most surprising things for me about the East Hub is the sheer landmass that we are responsible for covering. But me personally, taking up the mantle as the mobilization officer, I've been spending time really assessing how we are to go about covering such a large landmass, because the challenge to me is what boggles my mind, and that is what kind of intrigues me even more. So we have been planning, I believe, since the beginning of this year to start going into the rural areas. So I have somebody helping me at the East Hub. Sharon Hernandez is her name. She have been doing the call-abouts from the membership list, get in touch with people in the rural areas to structure a plan so that we could go out to the rural areas and meet and greet. And one of the surprising things still to me, even though PEP has dominated the social media platform, you still have people who never heard about PEP. So in one interaction Akil was having with some gentleman by a bar, when we walked down to the beach side, it had people who were by the bar who never heard about the PEP. So,
but I want to ask you a question, right? You did a walkabout in Mayaro yesterday. Was there any media?
No.
Nobody came to cover?
No.
Nobody asked you any questions?
No.
Got any calls from any journalists between yesterday and today?
No.
But the Progressive Empowerment Party, which is the fastest growing party in the country right now, is on the ground, and the media is supposed to cover it, is not covering it. And that's why some people who rely on getting their news from media wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. And that's unconstitutional. And each and every one of those media houses should lose their license to broadcast, because they are running afoul of the actual constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, upon which the law that guarantees them the right to publish and to broadcast is built. But there's a saying, a time will come when all unfair games will play over. Right now, the mission that you're doing is amazing. And you spoke about the landmass. Mearo alone is the size of the whole North Hub. I mean, the North Hub is dense. What Akil Camps and crew responsible for is dense. But you really do have a lot of ground to cover.
Indeed.
So Mearo going to be seeing you all plenty.
Yeah, because we have, we only touched one small part of Mearo. We have other areas going to the Rio Claro region. So we'll plan that and execute that as soon as possible.
But Mearo has become a marginal.
It has.
The people in Mearo, once you give them choice, they make good choices.
Correct, because the reception was very, very welcoming. We had a lot of people who were interested in hearing the policies and the different approach, because you have a lot of people singing PNM UNC. It's not really making sense anymore, because the roads, even if you want to start with something baseline, the roads have moved from deplorable to such even a worse state. I don't even have a word to describe it. So they know they're suffering. It's just that, to be honest, they never really had a choice that would bring about, or not even more so bring about, but to make them feel, it have something to choose that would make sense now. And that is what the PEP really brings to the table at this point.
The reality for a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago is they are at the end game of 57 years of political nonsense. Yeah. Government has used their vote to get into office to ignore them. A lot of the infrastructure that are put in these constituencies are put as make work contracts and make money contracts for financiers, and a lot of them are not maintained. So, and far-flung constituencies like Mearo would be best served, Point 410, Mearo, even Toko, Matlot, would be best served by the Progressive Empowerment Party's plan to decentralize the power of government to the constituency, to remove local government and to remove the RHAs and to remove the police precinct model and replace it with a constituency board of supervisors, so that Mearo, with its board of supervisors, a supervisor for public works, a supervisor for public utilities, a supervisor for public health, a supervisor for education, and a supervisor for national security in Mearo, would make Mearo a little autonomous state to itself, responsible for the conditions of its roads and the water that its citizens, its burgesses, its members, its constituents get, the securing of the constituency, the provision of healthcare, how the children do at school. This makes plenty more sense than having government ministers sit in Sinclair and trying to decide when they go find time to come and see what your drain's looking like. Are you explaining this notion? Because I think those two ideas, that one and the one where we want to make law that all public works of any kind done in a constituency must be done by companies from that constituency that employ workers who live in that constituency, and that no company could be present in more than one constituency, and no directors, no beneficial shareholders of any company in one constituency can exist in another, so that we make sure that the work being done in the constituency is done by people from the constituency, so that they have a vested interest in doing good work, because they will not be able to get more work if they do bad work. And the management of the national economy should be budgeted so that at budget time, all constituencies get their management fund allocated to them, so that they send the list to Parliament, to the Minister of Finance, of all the projects they need done with a value and a total, so that the Ministry of Finance could investigate the veracity of the projects and if the quotes are correct, so that it could be approved so that every constituency has their approved budget. They don't get money. They have an approved budget. You have $20 million to build a bridge across this river. And if that's approved, you have a $20 million room to negotiate. So you put it out to tender in your constituency and you award the contract. So if you send a bill to central government for $30 million for a bridge that was budgeted for 20, they're going to send that bill back to you, say no allocation found. No allocation found. Or if you send a bill for a bridge on another river, no allocation found. Because the person responsible for writing the check is criminally liable for the checks he writes. And he could only write checks for allocated projects, right? Funds allocated to a project. Fix this road, build this school, make this hospital functional, build this bridge. So if you, as the supervisor of public works in Mearu, had asked at budget time for 20 million for a bridge here, but between then and now, another bridge collapsed somewhere, and you have to approach the Ministry of Finance either for additional funds for that new bridge, and if no additional funds exist, then you may have to go through your list of allocated items and find something that you are willing to defer, and go to the ministry and say, we will defer building this in exchange for fixing this bridge if you can reallocate funds that was for this to that. So a reallocation document will be drawn up, cancelling the first one and issuing the second one, and it will be copied to the person writing the checks. A new budget, for want of a better word. So there will always be accountability, and that the people who are responsible for and charged with the responsibility at election, at budget time, after the budget, the entire budget should be published in the Gazette in its entirety and make it free to the nation. And that budget should have in it all 41 constituencies and the allocation to each constituency. So Diego Martin West, 800 million. Diego Martin Central, 820 million. Diego Martin Northeast, 760 million. Going on, Port of Spain North, St. Anne's, Port of Spain South, going on and listing all. And if you go to the Diego Martin West allocation, you will see the list of projects that make up this $800 million. So the people of Diego Martin West, whose job it is, because the citizens have a responsibility in a democracy, and it is their job to make sure that what is budgeted gets done within the year that it is allocated to be done. And that, so the citizens of Diego Martin West would see the list of all the things that are allocated to be done, so that they will be able to keep tabs. If you are living on a street that got a $13 million rehabilitation budget allocation, and 6 months pass into the year, and workers are on site yet, you have a responsibility to go to the supervisor of public works and tell him, this is a project that will take 4 months. If you don't mobilize within the next 2 weeks, we are going to central government to have you removed for incompetence and failure, because the money has been allocated to do this job. So your job is to make sure this job gets done, and that way central government wouldn't have to be concerned about every street, bridge, road, school, light pole, water pipe, because within the constituency, the people have a board of supervisors with autonomy, responsibility, and funding to take care of those things. Are we explaining this? Because this is revolutionary. This is real governance. What are people supposed to have as government? They're not supposed to be crying and moaning. They're not supposed to be burning tires and rioting. They're supposed to be able to have a system that they can work with. Right now we have no system. You don't know who to call. They have a hole in the road, you're just making noise. With this, there's a system. Are we taking the time to explain to the people? And how is it being received?
Well, when we do, I mean, you would have instances where people would be willing to engage in deeper conversation, because when you approach people, obviously based on first their body language and their interest shown in asking questions, you would know. But in many of the cases, we did really spend that time really explaining to them as much as possible on a granular level how the PEP has built-in accountability in the policies that we propose now. So I believe this is where, for those who show the interest, that idea is what they latch on to, because in my existence in Trinidad, I have never really experienced this level of detailed information given by any other political party. You see, so for me, I believe we bring in something, as you said, so revolutionary. It's just really and truly now to get the message out as much as possible.
And you're building your team, your own personal team for mobilization. Yeah. How's that going? You find that Trinidadians are getting more and more warm to the idea of...
they are actually, because we had about four new people. When I say new people, people who were not really active in the hub, that expressed that joy and that satisfaction in that walkabout and share.
So it's
that
getting more
interest.
enthusiasm.
People really getting excited, because we had a 15-year-old girl who's still going to school, and she was giving out flyers to drivers passing by and saying to them, fix the education system, more accountability in government. So that for me is a sign not to give up and not to stop, just to keep grinding, because there is that hope now. It could happen. It will happen.
A lot of the marginals, or so-called marginals, exist in the East Hub. A lot of people saying that all 41 constituencies are marginal now. Trinidadians are not happy with the state of affairs in this country, regardless of who and where. So, I mean, you think that we as a people have the capacity to get beyond the tribal voting that has left us where we are?
I think we honestly do, because one of the things I would notice, sadly to say, the traditional media have a way of sensationalizing the negatives, and I see for myself, we have a lot of positive people literally living in the country, and we need to highlight that more, because the reality is, and it has been seen with the policies that the PEP proposes, we could fix every single thing, you know. It's just that we have to have first a government in office with the will to do it, because you have to understand and appreciate the collective existence of everybody. In other words, if it is we don't live in that peace and that harmony, we will have existing in the country the chaos that is the crime, the corruption, the unfairness,
no, but Maurice, I mean, I want to tell you this, but it's growing, and people participation is growing. But I want to say to you that people have to understand that when you press the government to perform, they have no choice but to perform. You know, they start off in response to me with this question in the Red House, with casting us aside, and I mean, they behave like they had a divine right to make whatever decisions, and threatened us, bullied us. It's when the public push back that the Prime Minister put out a list of contracts and shared information, and all of a sudden UDCOT moved from bullying the people to apologizing, to giving timely releases. I saw a release that clarified another release. I said, but this is a change, and the public need to understand. The public needs to understand that political will is shaped by public involvement in politics worldwide. If you ignore your responsibility to keep those in office doing their jobs, they will ignore their responsibilities. But the reality is, though, because there are so many things, you spoke about education. We live in a country where people think everything is magic. When I tell them that when we brought to the public that the reason we have a water problem is that we catch the rainwater and throw it away in the sea, that our water and sewage plan is to collect the 10,000 times the rain that we could ever use and throw it away. People went to look at the rivers. And they call me back and they say, but Philip, I never even thought about this. That all the water we could ever want falling magically from the sky. How they sell us a desalination plant? How are we still paying for it? We pay every year for a desalination plant to desalinate water when we have more water than we could ever use. When you tell people that where the flood collects, that's where you put your retention dams. That's where you put your ponds. Well, boy, people have their houses there. People have their houses where they want to build the Tobago airport too. How they could move that? People have their houses where the Curep overpass going. How they could move that? We're convenient in our outrage sometimes and we're convenient in our thinking, but I am looking to the 66% of the population that not voting because it's growing. Every election, more and more people rejecting the two options on the table. They're not going out. They're not participating at all. And some people say, well, that's wrong. If you don't vote, you can't have a say. But that's nonsense. Because your choice can't be cancer or heart attack every time. There must be at some point an opportunity where you could vote for something. We spent the last 57 years voting out governments. Voting against. Giving them every reason to hate the other side. That's what the PNM and the UNC does. Only the Progressive Empowerment Party talks policies, as you say, to the detail we talk about it. We tell the public that you can. When we spoke, we were, me, myself, Tony, the food deputy political leader, Felicia Ola, chairman, we were in Port of Spain, and we were looking at the cathedral to Hyatt. Now, between the cathedral and Hyatt is Brian Lara Promenade. And that's a walkway. Construction engineers will tell you that you could easily put a retention pond from the cathedral to the Hyatt that itself will hold more water than Port of Spain could use. And that if designed properly, it will also collect all the flood at flood time so that it is empty and it's rainy season and the normal flood you would get in Port of Spain now has somewhere to go. And a simple ball valve, when it reaches a certain level, could turn on a massive pump to pump the water to a reservoir, to the closest reservoir, so that this don't have to overflow. Could even pump it to the sea if you don't want it. It doesn't have to overflow. The rivers that were built, those concrete rivers that we have, those canals that wash the water out to the sea, they hold millions of gallons of water. At the end of those rivers, we could put sluice gates. And those sluice gates could hold the water to a level, itself a retention pond, to an overflow point. And from the time it starts to overflow, the overflow itself turns turbines that powers pumps that empties the overflow to the next reservoir. That's what the Hoover Dam is. This is not new. The Hoover Dam was built in 1920. We didn't invent this. This exists in the world. We have 100 million of those. We have 100 opportunities for millions of gallons of water, just sluice gates on those rivers. And they could power themselves and automate themselves. You don't need people to go and lock gate and open gate. Everything automatic. Systems reporting to network administrators.
Simple.
It's not easy to fix. We look at our education system and we don't understand. We don't understand how to fix it. It is simply 200,000 children. How do you manage the education needs of 200,000 children? And you break it down from there. Because you break it down, 200,000 children in constituencies, in schools, in classrooms. So there's a minister of education. In our plan, in each constituency, a supervisor of education. In each school, a principal. And in each class, a teacher. So you break that 200,000 down to 25. Now you, the teacher, you're responsible for 25 children. And you could look at the performance numbers every term. If you have one centralized examination and you administer that examination nationally, not the teachers, education supervisors responsible for that administered these exams to identify where the children are in each class in each term. So you will know who performing and who is being left behind. And once you could identify who's being left behind, because nobody's stupid. Nobody child's stupid. So once you identify who's being left behind, you could then apply a solution. It could be something as simple as social intervention in situations where children are hungry. If I hungry, I can't perform. And I talking for me. So we know that. So if children in school and mommy and daddy poor and they can't and things hard, you could have, that's an easy problem to fix. Frederick Douglass said, it is easier to raise functional children than it is to fix broken men. And we need to treat all of these things a little more seriously. I know that you all in the mobilization team have a lot of meetings and discuss a lot of these policies so that when you go out to the public, you think that your team, you find it's an easy job imparting this information.
Yes, it is. Once, well, at least for me, in terms of imparting it, you wouldn't have people grasping onto it, immediately. So you just had to keep repeating the same process, because I have noticed in the members of my team, they are becoming better in terms of explaining policies and passing on the information.
And
So,
the public is receptive.
yeah.
The public feels like this starting to make sense, that government could actually work in
Could
Trinidad.
work,
Yeah?
Yeah, that is the reality. That is I experience.
Well, Maurice, I would like to thank you for being my first guest on Pep Talks in the Morning. Is there any closing comments you would like to make?
Trinidad and Tobago, this is your time. For people who would know and would see, we have never had an opportunity like this, never had a political party like this, and let us not wait for it to be too late, or for the saying, as the saying will go, too late to be the cry. Let us become responsible for ourselves and our country and make the right decision.
Thanks a lot, Maurice Downs. Maurice is the head of the East Hub of the Progressive Empowerment Party. The Progressive Empowerment Party has broken the country up into 5 zones of management: North, East, Central, South, and Tobago. And Maurice is the mobilization officer of the East Hub. We're going to take another short break now, and when we come back, we're going to deal with any outstanding messages and calls and stuff. This is our debut, our inaugural Pep Talks in the Morning. And if you want to make a call when we come back, the numbers are 347-4737 or 682-2110. Stand by.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us.
Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us, so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDICOT on why the renovations of the President's House cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go?
We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption.
Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
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 I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
And we're back, and we got a call when we were off air. So I told, yes, my friend, I told you that I will return your call when we're back live, and we're back now. This is our first caller. We're taking calls on 682-2110 or 347-4737. Good morning, you're live.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Well, I've been listening to you for the last 3 months. And within the first week, I realized what you're saying is true. And this is a reality that people need to wake up and live for the truth. When you hear the truth, you must understand and take the truth. And another thing is, every time I hear you talk, I realize the shithole that we really living in. Because this country could have been so much better. And like the country is going down and down and down.
What constituency you calling from?
Shaguanas West.
Shaguanas?
Shaguanas West was one of the best constituency under the UNC because Jack Warner controlling this area and used to get majority of the movement. Ever since Jack Warner out of this politics, nothing being done in Shaguanas West. Down till last week, they say they come to fix the some road. They come, they patch a hole, they leave out a hole, they patch a next hole. This is one road by a contracted vehicle company. The patch area, they leave out about 5-6 potholes, they go to patch the next area and leave it out. Akbar chase the next road. They come, they patch the whole Akbar road bad. They patch about 4 or 5 spots and they leave there. It's really bad.
So you're not happy with your government right now?
I'm not happy with the government, neither the recent government, because it's like since 2010, nothing been done in Shaguanas West. Nothing proper, nothing good. It's like come to kill us for the fix and they go on again. People very expensive to maintain.
Indeed. Anything else you'd like to add, my friend?
Well, work is so hard to get and all. And what people going to do when they don't have no work?
Alright, thanks a lot.
They're not creating any job to anybody.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. We will talk again soon.
Okay, done.
And that's the truth. Somebody messaged me to say you're now talking about real local government. What we experience in Trinidad and Tobago is a joke and it's a fact. And it's an absolute fact. We cannot call all of the mismanagement that has plagued this country. We cannot. Randolph Barcelona Goodrich says, yes, we do need this is a test show, so thank you for that contribution, Randolph. Randolph is a Code 9, the DJ. So when he gives us technical advice, we appreciate it. Somebody messaged me to ask, cruise ship currently docked in Tobago, what's the screening plan in place? I couldn't begin to tell you. Let me just respond to some of these messages being sent on my Facebook. So you can message me on Facebook, you can message me on WhatsApp, you could call 682-2110. It is a test show, but we expect it to quickly become a staple in the morning. It will be guest driven and co-hosted. One of the co-hosts for this morning was supposed to be Anthony Defoe, but I think he ended up on stage with Renegades 3 o'clock this morning. We have a call coming in here. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Just a question I need to ask you guys. What would be the PEP, if the PEP come into government, which I hope you guys do? What would be the help to farmers? I heard you talking about planting fruit trees and so forth. Would the PEP government under the Ministry of Agriculture give the farmers an incentive to buy the product from them, whether it's cocoa or breadfruit or Julie mango, as you said, and probably ship it abroad and give the farmers a fair price for the product, or do we have to face the fruit stores and get next to nothing?
I will answer you off the call because you have other calls coming in. You okay with that? Do you have anything else you want to ask, or that's the call? Because I will answer that for you.
Yes, Mr. Alexander. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we lost a call here. So I feel it's only fair to return that call. But I want to answer this guy. I want to answer this guy with the farming. But I'm returning this call, or just call me.
Call has
Okay,
been forwarded
let's
to
call
the
him back.
mobile voice messaging center. 868.
Okay. He was trying to call me back while I was calling him. Alright, well, I'll wait to see if this person makes the dial themselves. What this guy just asked about farming in Trinidad and Tobago and food production, that is an excellent question. And the Progressive Empowerment Party's policy is to support food production and use it for the purposes of making Trinidad and Tobago food self-sufficient, and to also use it to diversify the economy. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Pep Talks in the morning.
Good morning. So, Alexander, I'm just calling to congratulate you on this new program and to let you know that I was one of the participants in the Mayaro walk yesterday. It was really thrilling for me and my family, and I hope to do better more and just keep up with the good.
Thank you very, very much for that, my friend. Have a lovely day. Yeah, and we're appreciating that. The issue about the farming, because our policy is 41 central markets, 41 constituency markets, and those constituency markets will be responsible for buying up all of the crops in a prior arrangement with all farmers, because we want to be able to identify all of the crops being grown in all of the regions. We want to work with farmers, make farmland available. We can't sell you the land, we can't lease you the land. We will make the land available to you once it's state land, free of charge, once you're working with us to grow. You don't have to pay for the land, but what you have to do is grow the crop, because if the year passes and you don't grow what you're supposed to grow, then you're just wasting the land, and we have plenty of people who would like to grow and sell. We will make the land available to you, and in certain regions we will identify the choices of what to grow, and we will assist you in giving you the support you need to grow those things, and we will predetermine a price based on, there is something in the global market called futures, and futures identify the price 3 months, 6 months of certain things, and based on traditional values, we would know that in Trinidad and Tobago, if you get X amount of tons of planting, that it will sell for X price, so you don't have glut and you don't have shortage, so that we could hold to prices that the public could afford and have a variety of foods available at affordable prices in Trinidad and Tobago for all the people. And then the next step is to become a net food exporter as quickly as we possibly could. Once we could satisfy the needs of our people, we will become a net food exporter, and step 3 is to become a food processor. So that's the short term, the medium term, and the long term plan. Food processor is to have the government involved in a national cooperative of farmers, and the government's role is to provide processing facilities for farmers, and the farmers would use those facilities to, or not just farmers, the business community would use those facilities to get involved and to manufacture what they want to manufacture for the international market, for local, regional, and international sales. So that, take pepper sauce for example. Pepper sauce is a growing commodity in the world. The world getting to know Trinidad and Tobago pepper sauce, and a lot of people who could easily grow peppers don't have the facilities to move forward to access the grinding, the preserving, the bottling, the labeling, the boxing, the shipping. The government has that ability. And creating a cooperative helps them, so that if you are a farmer or you're a small businessman and you want to get into the pepper sauce business, and you're somewhere in that chain, and you talk to us, and we say, okay, this is what we'll do. We'll help you. Our graphics and marketing department will help you find a name, register the name, create logos, and put in all of the correct information. There's information that has to be on a label for things to ship internationally. If you don't have a proper label, they're not going to accept it. So we will make sure that you have all of that information, so that you can move from grower to producer to processor to exporter. We would make warehousing space available, shipping space available, because to move a package from Trinidad and Tobago is expensive, but to do break bulk and consolidate containers out of Trinidad to Miami gives everybody a better chance. Our export prices could be very good if we work with our people and keep all of the additional costs from piling on. Trying to ship a pallet of goods is expensive. Putting that pallet in a consolidated container reduces the prices significantly. Everybody don't need to have their own grinding mill. Everybody don't need to have their own pasteurizing vats. Those are standard for the market, for multiples of products. So once you provide that for people, in the beginning, there are those who will start off using the shared facility of the cooperative, but their products flying off the shelf, and they're making plenty money, and it becomes inconceivable for them to have to wait in line to get their day or their week with the production facilities. When they're making so much money, they could now access financing to set up their own facility. And that's how a business is found, and that's how a business is grown, and that's what government supposed to facilitate. And to those who are eating well on the big table, who forget, and there's a second and third generation who just born with money, that don't know that that's how your family's fortune started in the first place, that there was assistance and there was help and there was the ability to leverage the collective. And that's what government facilitated for you, and it should facilitate that for everybody. When people ask me your housing policy, how is it that you're making state lands available for people to build housing on? Bayside Towers is on state land. Grand Bazaar is on state land. If those could be on state land, why smaller ones can't be as well? We need to learn in this country that all of us own this country, and that all of us should be able to share in this country, manage properly to the benefit of all. That's where we need to go. The day we vote a government into office that thinks that the well-being of each and every citizen is the function and purpose of government, is the day we start to change this place. All these problems we have, poverty, drug addiction, crime, homelessness, all of it are functions of failure to manage, all of it. That you put the right things in place every step of the way and get out the people's way. Trinidadians are some of the most creative and talented people in the world. What passing for our carnival now is joke, made in Japan, tongues and bra. You bring back a proper carnival and it's easy to do. It's properly easy to do. This rolling, all-inclusive fete, that tribe and them, that they have, soca mass I like to call it. Soca mass have a place. There are people who like soca mass, give them soca mass. But take it out of town. The people in Port of Spain and environs, Woodbrook, Sinclair, Newtown, St. James, they don't like soca mass. They don't like the big amplified trucks in the area. They don't like it. They don't want it. It doesn't benefit them. You're not spending money in the community. All you're bringing is piss and noise. They don't need it. You're bringing traffic. They don't need it. Take soca mass out of town. That soca mass, you could line up all of those all-inclusive bands on the highway. Get them one lane and send them in one direction and let them come back. The people in the band are insular. They're inward looking. They don't care what community they're in. As long as they can wind up on one another, no problem. Loud music, plenty whining. Let that happen. But don't let be an inconvenience to everybody else. And Port of Spain and town and environs, bring back pretty mass. Bring back proper culture carnival. That 6 months before, it don't have to be about profit. It don't have to be about I make $1 trillion with my bass band this year. It used to be a collective. It used to be a community expression. It used to be everybody getting together and making their own costume while they're helping everybody else. Remember that? That's what carnival is. That's what carnival is supposed to be. And if they take out the massive amplified truck with 100,000 speakers and 10 million decibel and put back the rhythm section and the small pan and the brass band on the truck, Trinidad culture will find itself and regrow to where it was trying to go. Right now, we're trying to play Rio for a profit. And that might be okay for the ones making the profit. And that might be even okay for the ones that I passed this morning, 4 o'clock, round the savannah. Working out to get that body ready to show off. For what? We've been dumbed down and relegated to stupidity at this point. Our cultural expression has left our people behind. So nobody know what carnival is supposed to be anymore. It is a massive money spinner for the fete promoters and the all-inclusive bands on the move. Let them have their piece. I am a capitalist in my bone. But let it not be an inconvenience to everybody else. You could have both exist. You could have traditional carnival could exist. Right now, we still have the nonsense of judging points and judges watching the same twerking mass, the same gyrating horde, wearing the same exact costume, but for a little ring here and a little feather there, and you're calling it all kind of different names, but it's the same band. All of them playing the same song on the same speaker with the same crew grinding away on each other. What are they judging? Best six-pack? Best wine low? What? Best arrangement on the speakers at the back of the truck? I'm not approved. That can't be judged. That is not Trinidad Carnival. Send that down the highway. Bring back a space in the savannah for traditional carnival. Downtown and all through the environs. I grew up in Woodbrook, and you used to sit down on your porch and stand up by your wall and wait for bands to pass. People used to come out with hose for people who wanted to get wet down while they're playing mass. But you used to want to see all the different types of costumes, and it was enjoyable. This is only enjoyable for the people in the band. We need to treat that as it is and fix it. Another thing that worried me yesterday is that if Panorama is the only expression of Pan in Trinidad and Tobago, the only real expression in Pan, besides Martin Daly and a couple people talking about Pan in a kind of way that a lot of people don't really feel anymore, it means that we're losing it. It means that we're losing the cultural value and the community value of Pan. Lavantil Despers is now based in town. That means the power of desperados to knit that community together has been lost. And the Pan itself in danger. You have to ask yourself, how are we failing this country so badly? There's a church in Westmoreland that has 24-hour security guards and electric fences. If your church needs 24-hour security guards and electric fences, and you're not preaching from the pulpit that's something wrong, you see, the day the imams and the priests and the pundits join us in this conversation, because too many of us happy to hold we corner and pretend that if I do back at it, it wouldn't back at me. And we live in a failed nation. If we reach to the point in Trinidad and Tobago where we are selling electric fences to churches, something definitely wrong. We're getting some messages here, and let me see what I could share with you and what is just, what else could be added to this. The removal of the Trinidad and Tobago government railways by 1969 led to several things. Immediate corruption. We still do not know who disposed of the iron and steel assets. Some say it may be Johnny O. Secondly, created transportation gridlock starting in 1972 to 1974 as PTSC never worked. Thirdly, vast public works stupidity as we created a priority bus route. Next, we created transportation inflation as a result of traffic jams, which joined with the inflation caused by global oil boom. Yes. And I love the fact that a lot of you who have institutional information choose to share it now. Come out. And any of you who would like to be a guest on this show, to share your information, you could reach out to me off air, 682-2110, send me a WhatsApp, private message me on Facebook, and let's discuss. Let's get you on board. Because this is not a show just for big shots and big names. But coming back to the idea of the issue of carnival. Carnival is supposed to knit communities together. San Fernando, Chaguanas, Arima, Point Fortin, Tobago, not just Port of Spain. Port of Spain have our main carnival, like Rio have Brazil's main carnival. But in Rio, in Brazil, they have carnivals bigger than our whole carnival every month, as communities celebrate their carnivals that lead up to the main event. We've squandered our carnival. And instead of leading the world in an expression of culture and community, we've tried to monetize something and kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Now, when you walk down the avenue, and I don't live in San Fernando, so y'all could tell me, but I think you had to be real fit to play mass in San Fernando, uphill and downhill. And I want to try it one of these days before I get too old. But again, I grew up in Woodbrook, and I know that the avenue used to be packed with people. If you're not playing mass, all around the savannah, I used to remember, we used to go and walk about. If you're not playing mass, you're somewhere liming, and everybody, and the north stand packed with people. People come for the day with a cooler, a pillow, and a cooler, a beers, and there's it. Give me my mass. No, you don't even have reason to build a north stand. Nobody want to see it. 10 years ago, we started talking about it, that the streets are deserted. That after the band pass and the noise gone, it's just things blowing in the breeze, in the empty space where carnival used to be. This is, all of it is an indicator of how failed we are as a country in managing all of our situations. And we need to get back to a place where we understand how to operate this country. We're going to take our last break now. And when I come back, we will wrap up the inaugural episode of Pep Talks in the morning. You can't reach the walk. Why? Follow the main road. There's a flood on the main road. 9 o'clock on the dot. You're in the same spot. Why? Traffic on the highway. Traffic on the highway. Organized crime. Disorganized crime. Everywhere you turn. Crime and more crime. White collar crime. Blue collar crime. No color crime. We running out of time. No food in the pot. Why? Follow the main road. Follow the main road. 9 o'clock in the day. You can't see your way. Why? Traffic on the highway. Traffic on the highway. 9 o'clock on the dot. No food in the pot. Bills, bills, bills and more bills. Bills, bills, bills and more bills. $3 trillion spent, nothing to show. That's how it go in a land named Trinidad. Check this. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, 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 nothing. Public health fail, public works fail, local government fail, central government fail. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work. 57 years, tears, tears, tears. 57 years, prayers, prayers, prayers. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work. No bread in the kitchen, no gas in the car, no water in the pipe. Everybody by the bar, hole in the pavement, hole in your shoe, hole in your wallet. There's only holes for you. Nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing to work, nothing, nothing, nothing to work. She hold it like that. She hold it like that. No country in a hole, everything out of control. Gunman and she hold it like that. Okay, so we're back, and that was a quick 2 hours. Well, hour 50 minutes so far, and this is the last 10 minutes of the show. We're expecting a call from New York City that she called while we were on the break, so we're gonna, hopefully she realizes that we're back on now, and when she calls we take that call. But I'd like to thank Satish Ramsaran, head of PEP Media, for putting this together. We came up with the plan to do this show a while back, but we accelerated it to test it, to be in time for Straight Outta Carnival this year. This is our last best chance, and we wanted to make sure that we had everything in place to handle everything that we need done, and the best way to do that is to come directly to you. A lot of people take their information in the morning, some take it in the evening. Being able to do this live show every day will allow many of the PEP members to speak to you one-on-one, have guests, discuss issues. We're going to rebroadcast. The intention is to rebroadcast as a podcast, an audio podcast, and the intention is to rebroadcast live at night, 8 o'clock, so that all of the people who take it in the morning, who prefer it as an audio file, who take it as a evening line, everybody get the opportunity. You will get the same live interaction on the evening rebroadcast with all the other viewers, except you won't be able to call in because it's a morning show. Akil Camps, the head of the North Hub, is also a very talented contractor. And Akil and his people built this studio that you're seeing now in quick time. All the pictures that we are going to use going forward, we've learned our lesson with the President's House debacle. So we make sure that all the pictures that we use are our pictures. And so you'll never have to worry about that. We learn our lessons fast. It is our intention to invite everybody who has a contribution to make to the national conversation. And if you are somebody who would like to make a contribution, would like to come on the show and to talk about different issues, because if you look at the amount of things we touched on this morning, it's not just politics. We're talking issues. And if you understand issues, hello, good morning. Welcome to Pep Talk.
Hi, Philip. Good morning.
How are you?
Calling from New York.
How is it in New York?
Fine, thank you.
How is it in New York this morning?
Cold. And Philip, I want to come home.
Yes.
I want to come home to live, Philip.
A lot of Chinese want to come home to live. Who are outside? My brother, yeah.
The outsiders need you, Philip. We need you. You're the only viable option that we have now. And we're asking you to keep on doing what you're doing to fix our country. We don't want to be in another man's land all of our lives. We've done what we had to do here. We want to come home, but we need to come home to a better country.
I absolutely agree with you, and I want to tell you, we need your help. The Progressive Empowerment Party needs your help, and all of the foreign-based Chinese who know that the plan is to make Trinidad a first world nation so you can come home to a functional country. We also need your assistance. Yeah, we need assistance now, and we need the assistance after we get into government, the professionals among you, to come and take up roles and positions, because you've had experience in the real world and you know how things are supposed to function.
Yes,
yeah?
I do.
So you enjoy.
I work in fraud, waste, and abuse.
Wow, we need that
in
bad.
New York.
We need that desperately here. Fraud.
Yes, I work in fraud, waste, and abuse.
Fraud, waste, and abuse. I want to tell you something. I want you to send me a message when the show done, because I want to know more about that, because we would like to get somebody here just handling that, because we need that desperately. We have a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in this country.
Yeah, and that's all I see there. I cry for my country. I literally cry for my country.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Everything is so wasted and mismanaged down there.
It's crazy. Did you enjoy this show? Did you enjoy the first inaugural episode of Pep Talk in the morning? Yeah?
Yes. I'm enjoying it. It's making my day. I could go out there and have a good day.
Thank you.
Because I see that at least someone is trying to help my country.
Thank you for that. Thanks a lot for the call. Anything else you'd like to say before you go?
I would like to say to the fellow citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and to the outsiders like myself, please, we need to fix our country. We need to be safe. Indeed. We need our children to be safe.
Indeed. Absolutely.
And we need Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP in power to be able to do that. Too long have we given the other two sets of government chances and we have nothing. Instead of building us up, they're breaking us down. They're tearing us down. We need to be built up. And I think that the only person that I see who's really capable of doing that right now is you and the PEP. And I look forward to coming back home and being a proud member of the PEP and of Trinbago once again.
Thank you very, very much for that. Thanks a lot for your call. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. And that's a perfect call to close with. A lot of our people who have left Trinidad and Tobago, out of frustration with the mismanagement and the corruption, a lot of them went abroad and made it. They made good money. They have a life, but you miss home. You miss Trinidad. You miss where you grew up. So, let's fix it. And to fix it is a we thing. I mean, I could do all that I do, and it could be entertaining, it could be informative, but if we want it to be functional, we need teams of people on the ground, like what you heard Maurice talking about, and we need teams of people involved behind the scenes. The politics of the thing takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of money. We need your assistance. I am sure at some point Satish will find a way to put a ticker tape on this, asking you to help us. We have different ways that you could donate money to the party, because every cent helps. And a good way, if you want the information, check out our website at peptt.com, and there's information there. And if you want to assist and you want to have a conversation, message me direct on Facebook, on WhatsApp, 682-2110. It has been my immense pleasure starting off today without a co-host. I didn't know how I'd get through the 2 hours, but then it flew. So it was my immense pleasure doing this with you and for you today. To those who called, to those who messaged, thank you very much. Let's see where it goes from here. This has been Pep Talks in the Morning. Have a good day.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us.
Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us, so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go?
We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption.
Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate, and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
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 I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.